Hello everyone, and today we'll talk about amplifiers. And for a particular topic today, the best amplifier, at least among those I own. Now you can see on the table here, all these are high-end amplifiers, and that's because I always love to spend a bit more money on amplifiers as they are used for both IEMs and headphones. And I personally prefer amplifier a bit more than DAPs, which are more electronics than anything else. So you can see on this table here, there are 4 amplifiers. This is the Mesh Kobo 475. This is a handcrafted amplifier from Japan. Very nice device and uses AA batteries. Then I have the Emblem here. Now this is a very interesting device that runs both voltage and current. For today's particular test, it's mainly only on the voltage output, which is the single-ended one here. This M only runs on single-ended. There is no balance, as you can see here. No balance here at all single-ended ports. Then we have the C9II. Now this is of course with the case. The C9II is a very advanced amplifier. A lot of settings. Today it will be running on modern tube mode. Purely because I think this is the best one. All these amps here, by the way, have their own individual video. You can take a look at why I think the modern mode is the best. But I really like the modern mode most. Lastly, it's also another tube amplifier, but unlike the C9II, this only runs on tube. You cannot disable it. This is the Luxury and Precision EA4. This is the setting that I prefer the most against. There's a lot of settings here. This is the setting that I prefer the most. And on general, this is the most expensive amplifier. It's also the biggest and the heaviest, but I really think it is great. So I do own other cheaper amplifiers such as the Aroma Audio, the Topping, and some others from last time like RSAs and stuff. But I never felt that all those amplifiers are that good. In fact, at one point in time, I stopped stacking amplifier because there was no benefit. And this goes to my first point about amplifiers. Now, most of you guys that own IEMs out there really don't need to buy an amplifier. I can guarantee you that modern DAPs sound as good as entry-level amplifiers for the purpose of running IEMs. Unless you're running headphones, which is a bit more complicated, or running very hard to drive IEMs, I'll say as most DAPs really have good enough amplifiers for you, that if you are to buy a cheap amplifier, you may not actually get a distinct difference. And that's the reason why I don't showcase the cheaper amplifiers, because I really felt that they don't sound any different from my DAPs or from my dongles, or I'll say marginal difference. Now, all these are the high-end ones. They have some sort of specialty to it, and as such, they make a difference to the sound. But they are not like better in every single thing. In fact, all of these amps have something better in them. By the way, before I start, I will say that the DAP I was using was my Loto Pogo Touch here, and that's because the output for both the single-ended and the balance felt very similar and had similar output capabilities. A lot of them have double the output or triple the output in balance, and normally they sound a little bit different. Now, for these amplifiers, because it's comparison between them, there must be an outcome. And I just wanted to say that for this particular video is to tell people which amplifier I like the best based on my ranking. People like to ask me which amplifier is the best. So without wasting time, I love to start off with the score first. This is the final score. Now take a moment to look at it. There are many parameters, but I can tell you one thing is that I can add even more parameters, and likely their scores will even out a little bit more, but I do not think the position of the devices will probably change. It's just the nature of the sound itself, and of course my own personal preference after comparing them. There are a lot of factors that come into play beyond just the amplifier, but I try to be consistent in this comparison by using the same song, the same IEM, and the same DAP. The only difference is single-ended or balanced because of the emblem. I think you have seen the scores and pretty much what does it mean to you, right? let me just sum it up, right? The Emblem has the most dynamics and the nicest bass. Now it scored the highest for bass not because it has the most bass, because I think the C9II actually has a bit more bass, but it has the most controlled bass. It is powerful, it is controlled. And also it's the most dynamic, it has the most solid sound where when you listen to it, it feels like it is an object. And that's how I describe it, an object that you can hear in real space. And also it has a very natural sound, second only to the Mesh Kobo itself. It doesn't mean it has the best sound overall, because even though it did score the highest, I didn't feel that it's very airy. I didn't feel that it has the biggest soundstage. You know, there are parameters that in fact it scored the last, but overall it scored the highest score purely because of its characteristics that surprised me. I actually didn't expect the Emblem to be number one, seriously. I thought that it would be somewhere in between. Now, the next surprise was the Mesh Kobo was number 2. I thought that the Mesh Kobo would have been number 3. Now, there's a reason to it. That's because the Mesh Kobo only excels to me in one thing, and that is treble. And if you see the scoring sheet just now, the Mesh Kobo did score the highest for purpose of treble, for air, for brightness of sound, and for surprisingly natural sound itself. It is the most natural sounding among all devices here. It feels correct. So if you have a chance to try the Mesh Kobo, you will know what I mean. It just sounds correct if you compare. That's how I feel. I mean, a lot of time you feel like there's some coloration. The Mesh Kobo just felt like that is the sound. Now, the EA4 surprised me by being third. And that's because I always recommend this over other amplifiers. But you know, if I was to score it based on a lot of parameters, surprisingly it became third. Because the EA4 had the best soundstage, the biggest sound, overall a relatively smooth, airy type of sound too, I thought it would actually clinch first or second place, but in the end it became third. It still scored the best for soundstage, the best for separation and positioning. Surprisingly, it's just third place to me. Will I recommend this amp still? Yes, because soundstage and separation are the parameters that are the easiest to detect when you are comparing sound between amplifiers. In fact, things like bass, treble is a bit hard unless you compare really, really tightly side by side. I think naturalness of sound, maybe, but separation and also in terms of soundstage is very easy to detect, at least with the EA4, and it still remains my top pick for recommendation because there is a distinct difference. Now, I expect the C9II to be last for a few reasons. The C9II never really was the most outstanding in terms of clarity, for naturalness, and also for airiness. Surprisingly, it's not very airy for a tube-based amplifier. It's only smooth, but it's powerful in the middle, it's focused. It's a lot of mid-centricity here. However, it don't score well on many other things. It scored second on bass. Surprisingly, it didn't top any of the category that I compared against. I mean, I always will compare back. It didn't top any of them, but it is a very good amp still. It does make a difference compared to using the, this device here, the Loto Pogo directly. So I would say as among the 4 amps here, I rate it the lowest, but it is still better than most DAPs and dongle outputs. So then, where do I rate something like the Loto Po? So I actually also added Loto Po for the comparison. I didn't rate the score. It actually scored the lowest if I was to rate it because it loses to soundstage. Even against the Cayenne, it doesn't have the most bassiest sound, nor the best bass, the best treble. In fact, there is no one parameter that is better than 2 amps out on the table at any one time. So overall, I do think that if you are to buy any of the amps here, it will sound slightly better than the Loto Po when using IEMs. So today is really about amplifiers and IEMs. For headphones, there will be another video, but at least from today's scoring, the Emblem was number 1, Mesh Kobo was number 2, and EA4 was number 3, And then lastly, the Canon C9II. Just note, once again, that it doesn't mean the C9II is the lousiest. It just means that it wasn't my preferred choice after all this ranking. That's about it. That's really about it. So for my final thoughts, if you have money, get the emblem. It definitely will make a difference. But to me still, if you have a lot more money, I still think the EA4 is better, purely because soundstage everything is a bit more obvious. There is a significant difference there. But in all practical sense, if you are using IEMs, just don't spend this kind of money. Just get a good DAP, get a good dongle, call it a day. Only when you reach the pinnacle, you have bought everything you could buy, and you just want that last 2, 3, 4% and personalize the sound a little bit more. You want a bit more air, go and get the Mesh Combo. You want something that is realistic, like a solid item in space, get the emblem. You like more soundstage, get the EA4. You want more focus in the mids, the smoothness in the mids, get the C9II. And that's really about it. But it should only be done at the very, very end of your audio journey. Most likely not. Okay, I wouldn't say at the very end of your audio journey, but at least after you have already purchased a significant amount of item, that amplifier makes a difference, and that you could mix and match to get the sound you want. That's all for today. I hope you enjoyed my short little comparison between amplifiers and why I think they are good, why I think maybe you shouldn't even bother buying them. That's why for today. I hope to see you guys again. Bye bye.